This is Defacto Review, where we present the major events from last week and debate the possible outcomes. Hi, I'm Terrence Edwards. I'm an independent reporter, and with us today is our host, Jargo Defacto.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. With Terrence Edward, we will do from today a weekly review of major events in the country in English. So bear with us. We will cover today 5 topics.
Okay, so let's roll to the tape and see what we have to talk about today. Constitutional Court calls 2015 amendments to election law unconstitutional. Surge in the number of independent candidates for this year's election. Doctors are protesting a law criminalizing patients' deaths. Mongolia waits for a $4.4 billion project financing package for the Oyo-Toga copper mine. A war for power is taking place in Mongolian government. That's what former Justice Minister Hishdembril Temujin says. Okay, the Constitutional Court has called an amendment passed from 2015 for the election law unconstitutional. So a five-judge panel that makes up the middle bench of the Constitutional Court has made a ruling that the new laws, or the new rules rather, would be in breach of voters' rights. So the Mongolian People's Revolution Party has actually spoke back, and the chairman, Namber Ankfire, has called it criminal. He says it's a conspiracy brought on by the 2 largest powers. The Democratic Party has not yet made a comment, but there has been a proposal from the Mongolian People's Party. They've proposed a 20 to 8 seat split, where the seats that would have gone to party list will now go to a direct election. So we'll have 20 names selected by the provinces and 8 more from the city's districts. Okay, Jargo, so let's get started. This system where we see some people getting voted directly and some people being selected by proportionally from the party, is this normal around the world?
It's very normal in a mature democracy. Mongolia had tried the system from last time. So the system introduced and had been working only for 4 years. Very funny thing was, 4 years ago, the Constitution Court, the same court, said that it's okay, it's good, because we have a party. But what the 2 citizens who have complained about that to the Constitutional Court had saying that through that system we do not directly involve it as a voter for the members. Mm-hmm. They are just party on our behalf, putting somebody, 28 people. So this time Constitutional Court found they are right. And I think it's twofold reason. First, it was good for these political parties 4 years ago to go in that system. Yeah. Now it is not good. Why? Because it will require these political institutions to be mature enough, with a great leadership to lead the country, to show with their own examples how they can run the country, which was not the case. Mm-hmm. Now all major 2 political parties, except Inkpaya Party, agree with that, because in that way they have a more chance to win more seats first. Yeah. Second, they are learning also from a mistake. What happened was, last time when they put 28 political parties candidates, there were no, from in particular small parties, no clear criterions to select the right people. Okay. And there were people are disappointed that they cannot be parliamentarians. And because this unqualified, because this situation, we had a lot of decisions made, and that this political parliament the parliament had to change it. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why many laws was also amended. Mm-hmm. So that's why people in general fed up with the old system, and it most likely it's going to go in this new way, mm-hmm. or back to the majoritarian system, which means instead of 7, we had before bigger constituency. Mm-hmm. But now we have a 76 smaller one. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of candidates now already registered to run for the election.
Okay, so what exactly is the next step from here?
Well, first of all, they will go. Though this coalition for justice had a break for 5 days, which will be ended on Tuesday, and because the majority of the parliament members agree, two political major parties agree to go with this system, they have expressed already, the Mongolian election this year, 2016, most likely will go on the old system back or majoritarian. That's the next one. Okay. But with that, there are several issues coming. So what shall we do with this 28 seats? How we will divide it? Now, People's Party say that, no, we will divide it half a countryside, half a city. In Ulaanbaatar city, half of the population lives, as we know. But the Democratic Party is saying that, no, we will have 20 seats for the Ulaanbaatar because it's many people live there.
Okay, we're moving on, but not too far. We're still talking about elections. This year, we're actually seeing a surge in independent candidates. We just had on Friday the cutoff date for when candidates can throw their hats in the race. And we're seeing 90 independents join this year. That's double from what we had in 2008. We're also seeing a host of new parties. Some of our viewers might be familiar with the National Labor Union, or HUN, as well as the Independence and Unity Party. So, Jargal, what do you think is the appeal to voters for these independents and anti-establishment candidates?
Very interesting phenomena, which only can happen in this country at this political and economic conditions. Now look at this. We have 14 political parties registered, 2 coalitions. Then we have 90 candidates, independent candidates. So altogether, if a political party puts at least 50% for 76 districts, electorate, then at least 800 Mongolians going to run for political seat, which is unheard of. We have only 3 million people, and 80 of them want to be 800 of them. So one side. In terms of economics, if they will spend $500,000, say, 500 million tugriks about everybody, then we talk about 400 billion tugriks, or $200 million to be spent for this election campaign. It's a lot of money for the country, and it is not rational. You know, at this time of economic turbulence, heavy time, why we should spend $200 million for just the papers and to select the 76 guys. Though they will be, of course, leading the country, but still it costs a lot. Steering. So now immediately the first question is why those people would like to do. 2 things, I think. First, the reason why so many candidates, this time independent candidates, this time is political parties as institutions are not doing what they are supposed to do. First of all, they are not connecting people with the politics. Secondly, they are not leaders. You can see, just take the case of political parties financing. This is the most secretive issues in the country. Even remember the glass purse initiative by President El-Baghdad? That doesn't go to the political parties. And this is also his party too, Democratic Party. So the question is, what kind of programs you are doing that doesn't touch you? Are you a what? Separate island? So that's the people concerned. And I think when the political party financing, campaign financing, sources, reports are not disclosed, what happens? People, or fractions we call it, inside of one political party, in this case the ruling party, these fractions claim for bigger gain compared to return on investment, so-called, compared to the money they have devoted to their political party, and the return. That return is mostly corruption, because they expected the return is through winning a government purchase tender, through several high-ranking positions to make a favor of their own companies. And these political parties, none of them are putting a light on these issues. So as a result, people see criminals, people see crimes, people see corruptions, and more than that, we see that unfunctional government on combating big corruptions. That's the first thing. Second thing, why so many candidates?
Yes.
To me, it is because now the threshold of becoming parliament member in Mongolia is very low. You should have certain education, diploma, certain capacity to run the country. And now when the people run, I don't know, who had not done even universities, we don't know where they were before, what they do except they're defending by all means, they're only head of the political parties. They are giving a wrong impression to ordinary Mongolians that everybody can run. And in fact it is. So that's the two reasons why this time so many politicians are there. And the second feature, I think, of this election, major, first is candidates, the second major feature or difference this time is June 29th, this election comes and covers all levels of government. They say we economy money and it's better to vote it once, which is not, because what happens is the government stops functioning because half of the government officials run for the election.
Yeah.
Another half is waiting when they will be cut off, because mostly they are consisting of people close to their ministers or party proteges, not based on merit. So for a month, the country is going to stop. That's what I'm worried about. So these are the two features that makes this time election different. And I'm not saying about assent, which is going to happen just in 2 weeks after election. So all this together makes this year election to be truly watched.
We'll be watching, that's for sure.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Did you see the hubbub on Chinggis Square last week? There were medical doctors and medical students protesting. They're outraged by a new law that would hold them accountable for patients' worsening health or even death. So what does this mean? We could see fines of between 20 million and 80 million tugrik to those doctors held accountable, or even 2 to 8 years of prison. There could also be suspensions from practice. Those would run between 1 and 3 years. So Jargal, health sector, this is quite important, and Mongolia has been doing so much to try and develop this. Is this a step backwards? Won't this detract people from pursuing that profession?
There are so many accumulated problems in the health sector. We have been talking about that for ages. And there is not substantial increase of quality. As a result, Mongolians, they used to go, all of them, to Singapore or Korea for any small sickness to make any analysis, etc. But it became less because we had now on several private international standard hospitals. But yet, still our politicians, decision makers, ministers, parliament members go for their surgery to Japan, maybe at our cost too. And that means they don't believe in our own health system and they go. How about the ordinary Mongolians? Ordinary Mongolians have a big problem because it's becoming expensive. Not everybody is covered by the insurance system. And we don't know, we demand disclosure of Mongolian health insurance, which is purchasing service on our behalf. We don't see very clear statement. We don't see independent disclosure. So as a result, we have several problems accumulated. And one of them is also coming with what they protest for. Say, why malpractices of doctors are so much penalty received. This issue is the controversy came because they suggest this law, as you have mentioned. But however, this issue of malpractice of doctors are to be addressed through several channels or in complex of several things, including insurance.
Yeah.
Doctors, malpractices, insurance, which in the US, it makes a little bit expensive of medical services, but however, it takes a part of many problems. One. Second, I think now in our legal system, before penalty, into imprisonment, whatever penalty, the first concern should be how to cover the cost, damages that particular malpractice have given to or caused to the patient. So this is the complex issue, and I think this very manifestation or demonstration of Ulaanbaatar city, it opens this dialogue. There was a malpractice, there are malpractices, several cases, many cases, but we don't know clear report first. Second, after each death, there should be very clear statement or conclusions of the medical councils consisting of many doctors, and from time to time that the final conclusions to be checked by independent third-party auditing system. That's what is missing in the country. That's why when then we will know who is doing malpractices. Nobody's doing the malpractice actually on purpose.
Really?
But it happens. So that's why.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, totally understandable. We'll see where that goes in the next developments. There's lots of people waiting out there for a job, and that will come from Oil Torga. A $4.4 billion project financing package is on the way. This will fund an underground expansion project at the country's biggest copper mine, or the biggest mine, really. It will open the door to 80% of the resource wealth there as well. From statements made, we understand that spending will begin, or approval of the project financing will come before the end of the first half this year. Okay, Jargal, a lot to consider here. Tremendous project. What are the immediate impacts for this year for the people really hurting?
Well, OT is the largest mining project currently functioning in the country. And good news is it will be in that way for another 100 years. Because so many investment is there, it has to continue. So whether we like or not, we are with this project. We will live several generations with this project. So it's key, important, what is the economics of the project? Now see, $4.9 billion investment now reconsidered into the $4 billion by Deutsche Bank. Well, because the costs of labor, many materials came down. It's one aspect.
Lower costs.
Yes. The second aspect, whatever cost is there, according to our agreement, 34% is owned, so-called, because it's strategic deposit owned by Mongolians, which means 34% of investment you do or you cover afterwards. That means it is extending or delaying the profit share, many cash flow into Mongolians. So that's the big concern we have. We have been discussing it in a lot, but that's good news, you know. If OT works on time, that's good drops to this economy. Yeah. Because that's the only thing in the mining industry working, along with the Erdenet and a couple of few other companies. So it's key event, but when they start to invest, I think I understand the major truly investment is coming towards the fall now, because their board is confirming, adopting their feasibility and all these plans. And as soon as it's adopted, I think the tranches are also to be scheduled of investment and money withdrawing. So as soon as this all be finalized, while they start, I think August, September mostly, then we will see the economy, because as these OT leaders, executives promising, again they will start hiring Mongolians.
Yes, of course. That's
good time. Yeah, they have been, you know, about several thousand Mongolians working.
I understand it's hundreds this year, and at peak construction in the years to come, it'll be up to 3,000.
3,000.
Yeah. You know, the conversation in Mongolia or about Mongolia, it's always about OT. And a lot of people want to think beyond OT. What other development projects are in the pipeline that can actually rival the size of that enormous project?
You see, many big so-called large projects are too much politicized in the country, which means the ruling parties takes people or involves companies otherwise not through their right tender, or they pick up people not based on merit, and then the competitors come, then they change usually the CEO of the big projects, Altogether, it's because too much political, many projects keep delaying, like, for example, power station number 5, 10 years. And you know, it's a very unique project, by the way. As far as I remember, they 10 times laid the foundation of this poor power station number 5.
10 times.
10 times in 10 different locations.
Here, there, everywhere.
Yes. So that very clearly shows how much political are these projects. And I think until the Mongolian government, the people who is ruling the country, agreed that all major projects to be continued for major building up is 5 years, you know, using it another 50 years. So this should be really merit-based, very open, and no whatsoever political connection from the decision makers. That's the key, I think, for the progress of Mongolia. Without these big projects, in particular power stations, now hydropower stations, we cannot go ahead. And it requires long-term plan, vision, which are unfortunately limited only by 4 years of election period in this country.
Yeah, 4 years, but so many more years to consider. Yeah. Moving on. If you were watching earlier this week on the show Talk With Me Straight, with the host Boltko, the guest was Hishdembrel Temujin, a former justice minister. He's still a sitting member of parliament, however, and he was talking about the tug-of-war going on in Mongolia's governing institutions. You have the tug-of-war between the president, the parliament speaker, as well as the prime minister, and they're all vying for power. Now, when you think back 20 years ago, this arguing over scraps of power, is this what the founders of Mongolia's democracy had in time, or was their intention for the distribution of these offices?
Unfortunately, it was not. I mean, fortunately, it was not.
Fortunately.
And unfortunately, it happens. And I think I read in this way, Terence. These fights among powers of the same political party are reflection in a lot of way that the fraction, ambition, contribution, and their demand for the return on the investment to their political parties. Unfortunately, politics and policy in Mongolia is politics and political powers becoming a big business, investing a hell of money, and those who is paying a lot of money, they are becoming even higher power. And those who had less, they are competing with that. And again, everything comes because this political party financing and political campaign financings are not disclosed.
Yeah.
And now you see, even with the list of political parties, with this majoritarian system and the proportional system, now if you are listed in this party list, so-called, into the proportional list, right, you have to pay a certain amount of money, which is several million tugriks, which cannot be paid by just ordinary politicians.
Of course.
So they borrow, find somewhere. So this is one. Secondly, because the political parties, even the ruling political parties, have not inside made party discipline, integrity, principles, fights keeps going on. And they are so much associated with each other that I think the death of one or end of one means the end of whole system. So I think it will take some time. And good news is it's happening today. It was supposed to happen sooner or later. So now the issue is, what is the conclusion of ordinary Mongolians today? To hold responsible all these politicians for what they do, for the corruptions in the country, for incapacity of competing with this, combating these corruptions. So it is just not by chance happening. It is reflecting this political fights inside of the party.
Yeah.
And that is the example of Mr. Temujin, who was exactly said that Jenko Batulga was the person who had a general police meeting was held in his room in Bengal Hotel, said that Mr. Temujin.
Yeah.
In another statement, he said that the current chief police chief, Mr. Chinggis,
You got it.
was his person, he said. Jenko claimed that it's my person, why you are removing him? That's what he came to the Mr. Temujin when he was a minister. I mean, the very statement. What do you mean? Chief police is your man or my man. This is Mongolian institutional quality index.
Yeah.
How come that this power security chiefs are somebody's man?
Belongs to the public.
Yes, it should be public figure. It should be based, nominate based on talent, merit, not in the connection.
Exactly.
So that's the concern we have issue. And I think, you know, what we talked today, Terence, we are explaining to the English-speaking community in the country what's exactly going on in the country. Of course, it is not ideal what we have been doing today, but however, altogether, this is our intention to create this dialogue on what is exactly happening in this country on political, economic, social arena, not depending on any political positions. So that's, I think, our first job.
Yeah, it went quite well. Really happy to be here, everybody. That's our program for this evening. We hope that our briefings will give you a head start for the next week to come.
Yeah, please watch us, and we will post this program tomorrow on jargaldefacto.com so that you can rewatch, and also you can send email there so we can address from this newsroom every Sunday at 8:30. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Good night, Ulaanbaatar.
Yeah, bye. Thank you.